Hello, and welcome back to Electronic Identity Crisis. My name is Ambu Bambu, and it's good to be back in the studio. Yeah, it's raining outside now, actually, so this sort of officially marks the end of summer for me. Unfortunately, but I'm also happy to go into a bit more like inside mode and get back behind the computer and produce a lot of music again. So it's always a bit bittersweet, but I like watching the seasons drift and the weather changing. And hopefully it's not gonna be all rain this fall, but we'll see. I'll stop the record, by the way. One of the things I'm looking forward to this fall is an event that I'm doing with Relate Radio. I named it Sounds of the Fall, and it's basically a field recording walk through the park on the left side called the Noordplantsoen. And the idea is that people can dress up weather appropriately and bring their phones or other recording devices and walk around the park and just record sounds that they think are nice. Maybe to use in a DJ set or to produce music with or to do nothing with, but just for fun. Yeah, so I'm very excited for that. I think it's going to be very fun. And it's something that I always wanted to do. Like, I have tons of recordings already on my phone, but I never really used them for anything yet, I think. Not sure. But yeah, I hope this time I'll get some nice sounds, maybe of like wet leaves or the fountain in the park, or maybe some of the geese. And then I could use them in my productions. Speaking of productions, that's been going really nice. I also released my debut EP on the 5th of September, which was coincidentally when I was at Draaimolen. So we arrived on Thursday evening. So Thursday was the 4th of September. And at 12 o'clock, I was like refreshing my phone to see if the tracks had already dropped. And then they finally did. And it was such a happy moment. And I ran into tons of DJs and other people that I know at Draaimolen, as one does. And everyone was very happy for me as well. So that made me even happier. So that was a great moment. Just like one of many from this summer. So yeah, today I just wanted to reminisce a bit on what I have been doing and also play some nice music. I also went through my record collection again because I don't play them nearly enough as I would want to. Part of that is because I'm not a very good vinyl DJ yet, but I try to practice when I can. And yeah, I'm just busy with a lot of different things. So today I wanted to put my vinyls a bit in the spotlight again, but I also loaded some new tracks on my USB. So yeah, it's a bit of everything, a bit of vinyl, a bit of digital, and a bit of talking. Yeah, a bit of a stream of consciousness thing today. So I'll follow it up by, oh, this track, by the way, I will let you know. It's by FFT. It came in this interesting plastic sleeve. And the record is called Broke. And they're just numbered. So I played number 5. Yeah, very cool. Atmospheric, also bassy. And I thought it was a nice opening track. And I'll follow it up by a track called Restlessness by Niel from the Soft Soil EP. So I mean, not here anymore. Yeah. Okay. What a beautiful track. That was Amazing by Up Sammy, and I'm a big, big fan of her. And I also saw her play during Draaimolen, which was very different from this. I know her mostly by her more ambient work, but that was a super cool, bassy, dancey, fast set. And I love seeing artists that contain multitudes. Yeah, I don't know. It's so cool to get like a glimpse into their mind and their creativity. And of course, so many artists, they are super creative. So it makes sense that they have like these different sides to them. And I love when we, as music enjoyers, also get a glimpse into that. And I think that's why I chose to include this track as well. Also because I just saw her play, but also because of that. And it's something that I hope to show to people as well. That I really like more ambient and chill music, but also really dark dance floor appropriate music. And yeah, I'm just trying to navigate that now as well. With the radio show and also with my new project, which is called Fruit Salad. And Fruit Salad is more focused on ambient music, also more experimental electronica, but like the sort of cutesy, bubblegummy side, and not necessarily the very eerie or dark side. Which is something like the more darker stuff is something that's easy to default to for me. So I kind of wanted to explore that more sweet, upbeat side of music as well. So yeah, I'm really happy with how that's going as well. I have a couple of guest mixes online now from some friends. And the first event is coming up in November. So on the 16th of November, I'm organizing the event called Fruity Listening, which is taking place at the Prinsentheater, like very close to the Relate Studio as well. And it's just going to be sort of a Sunday afternoon chill out with ambient music and visuals and hopefully all sorts of fun activities. So yeah, more on that soon, hopefully. Yeah, let's listen to some more music. I have another vinyl ready to go. The record is called Frack, and the track is called Sepig, a re-edit by Joel Brindlefalk.
Music.
Oh, another lovely track by Anderson, and it's called Future Code from the Cut the Breaks EP. Um, yeah, I was just talking to Carolina about doubting whether this record that I have here should be played on 33 or 45 RPM. But yeah, some records, of course, can be played at both, and they sound nice. But I wasn't quite sure. So I think I'll play some more digital tracks and try to figure out which one it is, or which one I think sounds nicer. Maybe is the way to go. Because in this show, everything goes, as long as it sounds weird and wacky. So maybe I should do the one it's not intended to. But yeah, anyways. I wanted to play this track called Sanctuary by an artist called Shine Spark. And I was talking earlier about like the more upbeat and bubblegummy side of electronic music. And I think this track fits in really nicely with that. And after that, I have some music from the new release by Polygonia on the Dekmantel record label, which I think ties in really nicely. But first, let's play Sanctuary. That was Gate to Amygdala by Polygonia. And before that was Sanctuary by Shine Spark. And it's sort of like bubblegum dream turned into slightly eerie nightmare. Yeah, anyways, I thought they fit really nicely together. And I really love this release by Polygonia. It's called Dream Horizons. And it's out on the Dekmantel record label. And all of the tracks are super interesting, intricate, have a dreamlike feel, as the name suggests. And they're not always like super sweet or happy, upbeat. Sometimes they have like this darker tinge to them, like this one. And yeah, I just love Polygonia as well. So talented. And I'm gonna see her at ADE for Spielraum. So super excited for that one as well. In the meantime, Caro has so kindly helped me figure out that this record should probably be played at 45. So that's what I'll do. I think it sounds nice that way. So let's listen to this record, which is called The Bells. Not that one, but another track called The Bells, and it's by. Let me check. Squall Front, and the record is called Storming, and the track is called The Bells. So let's give it a listen. Very cool. And that was Puka Mirage by Otako, a very weird, kind of sparse and spacey track, but also a lot of nature sounds. And I really like the bird sounds in particular. And it reminded me of when I went camping this summer. I went camping a couple of times actually for the festival, but also just as a holiday. I wasn't actually planning on going on a holiday this year, but then I was like, I still really want to go somewhere that's not my house. So my partner and I, we decided to go camping, like very close to Groningen. And I had a great time. We went for 4 days. And it was just so nice to be outside. And even though we had a lot of rain when we arrived, we made the best of it. And it was just so great to wake up and only have, like, the only worry you have is like, when am I gonna eat? And what do I do for fun today? And when should we go to bed again? So it's a very simple life. And yeah, feeling so very lucky that I get to have that little escape for a couple of days because not everyone can. And I'm very aware of that. So yeah, I was just feeling very happy to have those few days of serenity and just spending some nice quality time with my partner. And yeah, this track took me back a little bit with the bird sounds. So that was nice, actually. And before that, I played a track called Loopsy Daisies by Pizza Dave. I think it's pronounced. I'm not sure. But yeah, two super cool tracks. And I will now go on with some more music. And I'm trying to think which one would make sense after this. I think I will follow it up with something a little bit more ambient again as a little reset. So this is Echo 1 by Luca.
Power down until we get a delta of 10 amps.
So this track, Echo One by Luca, is a track that I found the day of my Noorderzon performance, which was actually the first time I played a hybrid set, and it was very fun. It was a nice little exploration into what it's like to incorporate live elements into a DJ set. So I learned a lot, and it was kind of nerve wracking, even though I played ambient and I just laid some pads and like some subtle percussions on top. I was still a bit nervous, um, which I think is normal when you do something new and out of your comfort zone. And I'm really happy that I did it. And this track I found the day off quite late, but I really loved it because it starts with these really nice pads, and then you hear these voice bits. Yeah, I just found it very beautiful. So yeah, that one went last minute on the USB as well. And yeah, I had a great time playing the hybrid set. So I'm working on something new slowly. So hopefully I can do it again in the future. And yeah, I've been telling people that it was kind of like a baby step towards a live set. So that's something that I would definitely want to do in the future, like far into the future, I think, before I have a fully developed live set. But I think it would be very cool, and I would be very interested in that. So yeah, that's the little story behind this track. And I have another one lined up called Profile or Perish by Mimidos. I think I'm never sure how to pronounce names, but I think that's how it's pronounced. And this is from a producer from China, and I love highlighting cool artists from China. So once again, Profile or Perish by Mimidos. So that might have felt a little bit like a curveball. And it was, sort of. This is a track by Asian Dub Foundation, and it's called Buzzin'. And in particular, it was the remix by Dylan Rhymes. And I followed the other track, Profile or Perish, with this one because it's the Asian Dub Foundation, and I wanted to stay in the theme of Asian artists. But yeah, I think it's a super cool track. And venturing more into dub territory. Yeah, so afterwards, I have drum and bass, and it's an album called Dogs Deluxe. And I bought this at a vinyl market here in Groningen. And I was just having a little giggle because I arrived at the stand. I was just looking through records and I couldn't see the owner of the stand. But what I could see on a stool behind the stand was a dog sitting there. So I was like, haha, the dog is selling records. And then I found this record that I really wanted to buy. And I was like, oh, that's so perfect. The dog record at the record dog stand. So yeah, that was just like an inside joke with myself. But it's a super nice record. Drum and bass, kind of vibey, kind of getting like PlayStation game feelings from it. And there's actually two tracks that I wanted to play from this album. The first one is called Missing in Action, the 2.3. So yeah, let's go for that one first. Very dreamy, very PlayStation vibes. And actually, the track is called Dreamtime, so that's really fitting. Yeah, so two tracks from Dog's Deluxe, the dog record, bought from the dog record stand by the record dog. Um, Up next, I have a track called Smooch, and it's 105 BPM, although it's still quite fast. So, yeah, BPMs can be deceiving sometimes. Um, this is, yeah, just a fun, upbeat track, and I'll talk about it a bit more, but let's listen first. What a fun track. Yeah, like I said before, BPMs can be deceiving, as this track is filled to the brim with energy, and that's also something I've been telling my students, because that's also something that I did this summer and I wanted to talk about is the summer school. That was also a super fun week where I taught 9 participants all about DJing, but also like how to go about your artistic identity. We brainstormed some DJ names together. Cora came by for a guest lecture on musical storytelling, and Biko also came by for a guest lecture on digging for music. And yeah, it was such a fun week, and I discovered what a joy it is to teach people that are really interested in a subject that I'm passionate about, which maybe sounds straightforward, like duh. But yeah, it was such a joy to teach those people. And I hope to do it again. And I had some help from Caro as well. That was very nice. Yeah, so I don't know. It was just a very good time for everyone involved, I think. And yeah, I hope to do it again sometime in the future. And yeah, it's just so nice to be able to pay things forward and share knowledge. Because I've had a lot of help along the way, and I would like to give that to other people as well. And yeah, it would be so nice if the people that participated in the course turn out to be like really passionate DJs later on. That would be like an amazing result. So yeah, I hope that everyone had fun. And yeah, I have some more music. I'm looking at the clock and I see that the time has gone by incredibly fast, just like this summer. So yeah, let's listen to some more music. I have a track here called Trees by Andrew. And the last track, Smooch, was by Synthetic Children. So yeah, this track, Trees, has some like sort of spoken word elements in it, which I always think is fun. So let's give it a listen.
Hello again. I've been upended a few times, but I'm on the mend, doing sublime. I've been told that the cold can bend around the dead ends, and that an old lack of control can have lasting effects, but it seeps into the cracks. Old bad news is a reopened trunk wound, and the callus is a code for attacks. It's the ramshackle versus a monsoon, but when with this flurry of tracks, we'll be warm and well fed soon. Soon. It will diminish the chill as its limits of tangles and murmur. How feeling is left. If you're kinda numb, then look no further than the bark that is dead. It's kinda fucked up how quick it sets in. Frostbit, you fucking crossed me so hard and so cold for so long. I'm numb and exposed, but once I'm gung-ho, I'm raring and ready to go. I just need myself a space that's enclosed, but I got that shit in droves, and I'm feasting off of the antidote. With loved ones breaking dirt and bread, no straight blue and I scan infrared. I was a sad sap and grappling at doubts. Now there's no wind that can blow me down. I'm as warm as my roots are deep in the ground. What I'm about is what I found. Another ring for a lap round the sun. The cold sting's a signal of a war to be won. To fear the tree freeze, but now I'm tree 3. I've got the means to be unfathomably big. I'ma give my feelings a lot of misty, cause when I was tree 2, those were a hit. Should've been taught more when I was planted as a kid, coasting off survivalist techniques, kid. I'm out here rebuilding the whole foundation and learning bad patterns with quick termination. Didn't have enough seeds or resources before. Tree 1 and 2 die, and the second and 4 try, so would I'd freeze, wither, and bleed with alarming regularity, but with this third seed I can see the disparity. I'm the first string and finally treated as such. Despite the elements and everything, I can grow and I must. These hieroglyphs read like hieroglyphics. Who was I with? Why does that sting? Whenever I am reminiscing, I find some faults mine, but not everything, no. I've got 3 seeds, and that's all I need. That's all I need. That's all I need to grow. To grow, iterate, undo blows. It's not too late for roots to take hold. sides, I trim and cut loose, past abuse and plan to grow without my life. I'm never burning, I'm not scared to die. I can't freeze and I feel alive. I feel more alive than I ever have before.
there are bulbs in front of you. One more point would be whenever I see your body, I lose like all control. But I don't really need to tell you, as you already know. I want it, need it. I gotta have it, crave it, fave it. It's a bad habit. Yeah, call, but I never know what I wanna do. I just falling head over heels onto you. Now you're crazy fucked up in the head every time I'm getting out your bed. I know we have rules and that's cool, cause I said I would stay, said I wanted casual, said don't worry about me. But now I'm like, oops, I love you. You only wanna play, you didn't wanna grow. I thought I was the same, but now I'm like, oops, I love you. I can't get you out of my head, and it's not just physical. I got a little crush on you, but I can't tell you, so I shade it, hate it. Come back to have it. I lash out, pass out. It's a bad habit. Try, but I can't stop thinking about you. And I lie, and I don't care what you wanna do. I love you, laugh, I love you, smile. You bring you tight, you chose to drive me wild. One more, and it's not cool, cause I said I would stay, said I wanted casual, said don't worry about me. But now I'm like, oops, I love you. You only wanna play, you didn't wanna grow. I thought I was the same, but now I'm like, oops, I love you. I love you. Oops, I love you. I love you. Now I'm like, oops, I love you. I love you.
That was Oops, I Love You by Favorite Day. And it's one of my recent finds from Bandcamp that's like more poppy leaning. Yeah, I find a lot of interesting pop music by smaller artists there. Um, yeah, I don't know, kind of my pop revival, I guess. Yeah, I always enjoy listening to indie and indie rock and a lot of different genres growing up. And I felt like I was always a bit quick to dismiss pop music just because it's popular. But yeah, there's of course also a sort of style to it that can be very interesting when it's made by these really cool up and coming artists, I think. So yeah, I enjoy that a lot nowadays. Um, yeah, I felt like we have been listening to a lot of different kinds of music, and I want to send it off with a last track. It's a record that I bought in Berlin when I was there in August because my partner and one of my friends, they were playing there, and we joined with a group of friends from Groningen. And we made it a fun weekend. And of course, we had to hit up some record stores as well. So I enjoyed them to Elevate, which is the record store by DJ Sinti. And I haven't visited many record stores in Berlin, but so far this is my favorite. Except that my favorite part about it was not accessible when I was there because they have an amazing basement that's full of secondhand unsorted vinyls. And we couldn't go there, unfortunately, because they were doing some construction work. But yeah, if you're ever there, you get the chance to check out the basement, please do, because you can spend hours upon hours there just digging through all sorts of stuff, and it's all unsorted, so you have to like really check out what it is, and such a fun exploration into different types of music. So, but this one was from the secondhand picks as well. Let me check what it's called. So the track is called World of Bauxite, and it says Crouton with a K on Tritone Records. So yeah, this is gonna be my last track. I hope you enjoyed listening to this show, and see you again. Not next month because this is becoming a bi-monthly show. So see you again in November.